go ahead and talk about my other running back as a mid-round league winner. He's a little bit early in the mid-rounds. It's Jonathan Taylor. Right now, his ADP is running back 22. He's going in the late fourth round, early fifth round in some drafts. But Jonathan Taylor, he's got hyped up all offseason for his talent. He was my favorite running back in the class. He has a really interesting combination of power, yet that 4.39 speed that we saw at the combine. So I'm super excited for Jonathan Taylor as a Colts fan. I will say maybe it's a little bit of a homer pick. Keep me honest here, Steph. I'm excited to hear your take after I lay out some facts here. But Jonathan Taylor comes into an ideal situation for a running back. Yes, he has some competition there, so maybe it's not perfect. I take that back. Maybe it's not perfectly ideal. But as far as the offensive line goes, that's what you want as a running back. We talk about these guys in San Francisco like Raheem Mostert and Tevin Coleman running in a good offensive run scheme behind a good O-line. And do we think Raheem Mostert and Tevin Coleman are, top 10 running backs in the NFL talent-wise? No. But they come into a situation where the scheme and the line is so good that it doesn't matter who's running the ball. So for the Colts, you have a really good running scheme under Frank Reich, and you have one of the most elite offensive lines in the NFL. It doesn't matter who's running the ball, they're going to get it done. We've seen Marlon Mack get it done for years. We saw Jonathan Williams come in and be like the waiver pickup of the week for 1 week to do nothing else the rest of the season. He had like an 100-plus yard game. We've seen Jordan Wilkins get it done. Like anyone who comes into this backfield has been able to run behind this O-line. Now you combine it with an incredible talent like Jonathan Taylor, and it's going to be fun, especially for me as a Colts fan. It is going to be fun. So he comes into a great situation, and even with Marlon Mack there, even with Nyheim Hines there, I think Jonathan Taylor could see up to 250 carries this season. Marlon Mack, for reference, last year had 247, so he was right there. And this year as the backup, Marlon Mack should still see somewhere over 100 carries. Last year, Jordan Wilkins and Jonathan Williams combined for 100 carries on their own. So I see Mack getting a lot of that backup work that they got, maybe a little bit more. And Jonathan Taylor should come into the lead back role here in Indy right away. I know one of the concerns is Nyheim Hines. I don't see him getting much work on the ground. But with Phillip Rivers, I do expect Nyheim Hines to get some check down and some passing volume. So maybe that caps Taylor's upside just a little bit. But I still think Taylor's an adequate receiver. And like I said with Brady earlier in the show, if Taylor's the running back on the field and it's a pass play and the pocket's collapsing, Rivers is going to dump it off to whoever's there. Last year, we saw Eckler get a tremendous amount of receiving volume. Melvin Gordon still had a lot of receiving volume, even with Austin Eckler there in that offense. Phillip Rivers loves to dump it down to the running back. Rivers targeted the running back position 182 times last season.
Wow.
Absolutely incredible. So you can't tell me, because Marlon Mack isn't really going to be a factor in the receiving game. Nyheim Hines is not getting 100 targets this year. So even if Rivers, I'm not saying he's going to get 182 targets to the running back, but if that's 140, 150, that still leaves, 50 to probably 75 targets, minimum of 40 targets for Jonathan Taylor in this offense, which should be plenty enough for him to really help his receiving floor and make him a fantasy asset. So, look, I love Jonathan Taylor. I think he should be talked about in the Nick Chubb category more than he's being talked about right now. Right now, Nick Chubb's ADP is the running back 10. And when you think about it, it's a similar situation. Their run style and their skill set is similar. They're power runners, fast runners, but they don't have, elite receiving skills, but they can get it done. They're in a run-focused offense, the Browns and the Colts. They have a receiving back to take away receiving work. The Browns have Kareem Hunt. The Colts have Nyheim Hines. And then they also have a backup running back that's going to take away some work on the ground. The Colts have Marlon Mack, and the Browns have Kareem Hunt. So, Nick Chubb's going as the RB10. I know he's a little bit more established. We've seen him be effective for years. Jonathan Taylor comes in as a rookie, but the talent's there, the situation's there, and I'm just all aboard the Jonathan Taylor hype train.
And the hype train is real for JT, and I'm with you right on it. If we look at it from like a measurables analytics perspective, the comp on player profile is Ezekiel Elliott. I think anybody that watches that saw Jonathan Taylor play on Wisconsin last year would say that Ezekiel Elliott is a perfect comp for him. The concern is the volume, but I think if Taylor comes out and is what everybody expects him to be, he's going to be the clear RB1 in that running back room. A couple games into the season, you might just have to wait a few weeks to let him get going. But in the mid rounds, I think it is an incredible value, and it is truly a league winning pick. We talk about that as like the true definition of league winning. And you remember last year, like I don't know if you remember, you probably remember as the Colts fan, the run the damn ball, mantra that everybody was saying down in Indy. I think that could continue. Like, yes, Phillip Rivers is still there, and he's going to air it out more than Jacoby Brissett is. But at that same token, it's like, Rivers isn't like a Tom Brady where we expect him to come in and just be fantastic right away. Like, what's to say the wheels don't fall off for Rivers like they did kind of last year in LA, where he's just like, frustrated late in games, just trying to air it out as best as he can. If I'm Frank Reich,
this might be
I'm
the
like,
best team that Phillip Rivers has ever played on.
Potentially, but for like if I'm Frank Reich, I'm like, why am I going to even risk putting Phillip Rivers in a position where he's gonna need to air it out like that and turn the ball over when I can just hand it off to Jonathan Taylor 15 to 20 times a game and just let him either run it up the middle, run it out to the outside, and even get some of that check down passing volume. So I'm with you. I think everybody's extremely high on Jonathan Taylor. It's more of just like a concern in his rookie year. Is he going to immediately come in and just get rid of Marlon Mack? And it's really hard right now to kind of sift through the coach speak that we're hearing. For all we know, Jonathan Taylor could just come out and be the one on this team, and Marlon Mack was only seeing 8 carries a game. So we'll see what happens there, but it really is a league-winning pick, so I love it there.
Right, yeah. One last quick note on Jonathan Taylor. Actually, a couple things. According to Fantasy Pros, just to build on the hype train that we've already got going. I mean, train's coming. You either get hit or get off the tracks. But according to Fantasy Pros, the Colts have the easiest schedule in 2020 for running backs.
Wow.
So there's going to be plenty of opportunity here for the Colts. And the reason I really love Taylor so much is the last thing I'll say. I think in a worst-case scenario, this is a 60-40 split in favor of Taylor. And if JT gets 60% of the work in this offense, I still think he's an RB2, which right now he's being drafted as the running back 22. So I think in a worst-case scenario, with only 60% of the work, Mack is very involved, Hines is involved in the passing game. I think Taylor could still return on that ADP. But if he comes out, one, if someone else gets hurt, which we never know what's going to happen, but two, like you said, Taylor could come out and be the workhorse. And if that's the case, there's no doubt he's a top 8 running back. So
if I'm Frank Reich, my whole playbook is going to be Jonathan Taylor, run behind Quentin Nelson, and just see how far he can go.
Yes. Yeah. So I think there's actually a safety net here because you don't have to pay up, high risk, high reward. We think about the first round type of players. Like a Clyde Edwards-Helaire is in a similar boat where I think right now, worst case scenario for CEH is below where he's being drafted. If Damian Williams gets more work than we think and it takes him a while to get worked in, he's probably not worth the draft capital in the top of the second round or wherever he's going right now. But with Jonathan Taylor, I think the worst case scenario for him, you can still justify taking him in the 4th or 5th round. So I think it's a safe pick, but then the upside is there. So that's why I love this Jonathan Taylor pick.
I can't wait to see, like, in 2 or 3 years from now when we compare JT versus CEH, because I think these guys are both extremely hyped up. We're both the top prospects in this class. You add in DeAndre Swift there too. It's an exciting time for these rookie running backs.